the beautiful tennis sweater in this gorgeous cloud yarn, which is really soft and bubbly. It's a little bit like boucle, but more of a ripple strand, no loops like boucle, so it's easier to knit with. It's lovely, soft and light, and lots of texture, so a little bit harder to see your stitch work, but it's a lot of fun and beautiful to wear. So first up, after the neck ribbing, is a yoke increase round, so I'm going to show you that in a minute, and I have joined in my main colour there. And then we'll get straight into the German short rows, and the reason for our German short rows is to shape our neckline so that it's higher at the back, lower at the front, like this finished one here. So what we do is we work back and forth on the back of our neck, creating extra rows there and therefore extra depth to our neckline. And we follow that same process for the hemline also if you're wanting to have a dropped hem at the back. That's entirely up to you, and in the pattern you'll see that that's an option further on. Okay, so straight into our yoke increases. So we're knitting 7 and then making an extra stitch by make 1 left. So I've already knitted 4 and then another 3. And to make 1 left, we are going to pick up the strand of yarn that crosses over, or the leg it's called, between the first stitch on the left needle and the last stitch that I just knitted. So I've picked that up with my right tip there, as you can see. Bring the left tip around and hook that onto the left side, and then you've got the longer part of the stitch in the front, the shorter part at the back, and we're going to knit into the back of that with our right needle to tighten that up, and that is a make 1 left, and we have increased by 1. So we are knitting 7 and repeating that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These first rounds are always the kind of trickier ones. Everything's a little bit awkward, but once we get further into it, it gets easier. So we're going to make 1 left, pick up that strand between the 2 stitches, bring our left tip around and hook that new stitch onto the left needle. And again, we've got the longer part of the stitch at the front, the shorter part at the back, so we knit into the back of it, tighten that up. And we carry on and repeat that, knitting 7, make 1 left, all the way around. And then I'll come back and we'll start our short rows. Okay, I'm back at my beginning of round marker, which is the centre back on our tennis sweater. So I am now going to start the German short rows, where I will be knitting flat or back and forth around, mostly around the back of the neck stitches, a little bit further towards the front, but not a full round. So what we do is we knit to a certain point, and then we turn our work over and knit back the other way, and we do a double stitch at the turning point so that we don't have any holes in our work. So let's do that. So I'm starting at the beginning of round marker, and I'm going just over halfway around to the other side. I'm doing the smaller size in the pattern, which means I am going to knit 26 stitches to get to the point where I want to be. Okay, I am now at the point where I'm going to create my first double stitch. So to do that, we first turn our work over to the wrong side, so just flip it over. There we go. And to create a double stitch on the wrong side, we slip that first stitch purlwise from the left to the right needle. Now we're going to create the double stitch, which means we pull our yarn up and around the needle back to the purl position, so we can work on purling back across the neck stitches. So before I finish that double stitch, I'm going to place a marker here. Because the cloud yarn is quite bobbly, the marker is going to tell me where I created that double stitch, which is important for the following German short rows. So we mark the position there, so you will understand that on the next German short row. So again, double stitch on the wrong side, so we're just pulling up our yarn, wrapping it round the needle, bringing it back to the purl position, and then start purling across, and we are going to go all the way past our beginning of round marker, right round to the other side to an equidistance to what we've created on our first German short row. So this is our second German short row on the wrong side, and we are going to do 51 stitches all up, because that first double stitch I created is our first stitch. So remembering we did 26 to get to here, so that means 52 all up to get back to an equidistance on the other side, counting the first double stitch as one, so we are doing 51 more. So we're just going to purl all the way back around past our beginning of round marker until we have got our 51 stitches, or 52 altogether. So then we will come back and I will show you the next step. Okay, I have now purled 52 altogether, counting my first double stitch on the other side back here as the first stitch. So I am ready to move on to row 3 of German short rows. So I'm going to turn my work again, so we just flip the whole thing over like so. This time we're on the right side of our work, so we slip that first stitch purlwise, we move the yarn into the front of our work, slip that first stitch purlwise, and then place our next stitch marker so we know that we created a double stitch just after that. Pull the yarn up to create the double stitch, and this time we don't have to wrap it around the needle because we're not doing a purl, so we are just going straight into knit. So we've got our yarn coming up over the needle, creating the double stitch, and we're going to knit all the way back, and this time we're going past the beginning of round marker back to our first double stitch marker. Okay, I'm at the end of row 3 of the German short rows, and I've come back to my double stitch marker there. So I'm just going to slip that off, and that tells me that my next stitch was the first double stitch I created. So you can see it there. It looks like 2 stitches, but it's actually 1, and we're going to knit it as 1. So we knit that 1, and then as per our pattern we are going to knit 3 past that, so 3 more, and then ready to do row 4 of our German short rows. So you can see there I'm creating extra height by working back and forth on those stitches rather than all the way around. So we flip our work over to the wrong side, slip, we've already got the yarn in the front of our work, slip that first stitch off the left needle onto the right, it's a little bit hooked, there we go. Place our stitch marker, whoops, I dropped it. Okay, place the stitch marker so we know that behind that stitch marker is a double stitch for when we come back the next time. Moving our yarn up around the needle back to the purl position, and we're going to purl all the way back around past the beginning of round marker to our other double stitch marker on the other side, and then move that double stitch marker, knit the double stitch, knit 3 past it, and continue doing that as per our pattern to create our extra rows on our neckline. So I'm going to carry on and do all that and come back at row 9. I am just about finished row 8, which is the last row of my German short rows. Row 8 is a wrong side row, so I have come up to the stitch marker and then gone 3 past that, taken my stitch marker out, gone 3 past that, and we turn our work over to the other side, slip, so we have our yarn in front on the right side, slip that first stitch, grab our stitch marker to mark that double stitch, and then just start knitting because the double stitch will be created by the yarn being in the front, and it goes up and over the needle, so that creates our double stitch, which is our very last one. So now we are on round 9, which is the final grand finale. So we, this time, just to show you what we've created there, so you can see we've got a lot more height at the back versus the front there, where we have no height yet. So round 9 is our first full round, so we're going to knit back to the beginning of round marker over here, and then do a full round all the way back again to that beginning of round marker. And the double stitches that we come to over here, we're going to knit those as one stitch as per usual, take our stitch markers out, complete our round, and then we are done with German short rows. They actually don't take that long at all, but the effect is great. And then we can continue on with our tennis sweater, doing our yoke increases and onwards. So if you decide to do German short rows at the hemline of your tennis sweater, this is optional, you'll end up with a slight drop at the back of your sweater, which it's up to you whether you like that or not. I've got it on my one here. So it's the same process that we just showed you for the neckline, but we're doing it bigger rounds, bigger rows obviously, because we've got a wider sweater that we're working with. But it's super easy, and I hope that has helped. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to watch some more knitting tutorials and experience some more of our knitting kits from Unravelled.